and get to know some new people. That I think while we're talking, I think what would be great is if you would just like to introduce yourselves in the chat. Just tell us a little bit about who you are, what you're growing, what you're doing, and if there's anything in particular that you really want to get out of today, or some topics that you really want us to focus on during the session. So type that in, and we'll just get we'll meet each other virtually, I think. So welcome to today. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give a little bit of background and set the scene really, and talk a bit about the demand for Welsh fruit and vegetables. We're going to spend the bulk of the time really hearing from Chris and Rick, and they will introduce themselves in a minute, but certainly Chris will be focusing really on the edibles, and Rick has experience in all sorts of things, but in particular around ornamentals. So we'll cover both edibles and ornamentals today. I think what I'm aiming for this session is a cross between a chat show and question time. So it'll just be exchange and chat, as Johnny's alluded to. Please participate in that. Put the questions that you'd like answered into the chat, and we'll pick them up as we go along. So, Johnny, should we crack on, or do you want to wait a few more minutes to see if we get anybody else coming in?
No, let's crack on. If anyone else joins, they can just catch up.
Yeah, I think I just really wanted to put this session in context, really, of the wider demand for Welsh fruit and vegetables, and I think it's been very clear. There's been some excellent work done by a number of people, principally Amber Wheeler, looking at the supply and the demand of fruit and vegetables in Wales, and the demand specifically for Welsh fruit and vegetables. The supply is very low. That will not surprise you. The demand is really quite strong. I think she's identified a real appetite, literally, for Welsh fruit and vegetables, and that's been increasing fairly steadily for a number of years. But a couple of things lately have really had an impact on that, and it'll be no surprises there. It is Brexit, and it is the COVID pandemic, and I think the implications of Brexit are really beginning to become apparent, particularly to wholesalers who are importing fruit and veg. It's become much more difficult, much more expensive, and the chances of perishable goods getting held up in ports has become increasingly large. So the wholesalers in particular are really interested in sourcing more Welsh grown fruit and veg. And that's not what we're talking about today specifically, and maybe that's for another time, but I just wanted to make you aware that there's an underlying general growth in demand for Welsh fruit and veg. I think in terms of direct sales, I think it's the pandemic has had an enormous, colossal impact, and I think as growers, I'm sure you will have all felt and seen that, particularly in the early days. The growers that I've been working with and talking to have experienced some cases 5 or 6 times the demand that they could service in those first few months of the pandemic. Now, that level of demand, A, could never be supplied, and B, could never be sustained. And I think as the food supply chain in general settled down, the number of the demand on local businesses dropped. But here's the important thing: 2 years down the line, practically all of the businesses that I'm working with and talking to have ended up quite significantly higher than they were back in 2019. So quite often that's about 25–30%, but there are people I know who are running at almost twice the demand that they were 2 or 3 years ago. And the further significant point is those guys have mostly met that demand from expanding their own businesses, taking on a bit more land, making some tweaks, perhaps changing some cropping plans. But most of them, I think, are really at the point now where they are at capacity. So the increased demand for Welsh fruit and veg sold direct, I think, is increasingly going to have to come from either new entrants or from businesses who are switching from the longer supply chain and wholesale to direct sales. And I think that's why that's a really exciting time. I think there's been another perhaps less visible impact of the pandemic, and that has been the development of the technology that supports and markets direct sales. So I expect you are all aware of this. The number of digital platforms that popped up during the pandemic was absolutely phenomenal. There were times when there was a new one every week. So I think the opportunities there for digital marketing have increased. The established platforms also, I think, have really upped their game. And I think that the digital platforms now have much better functionality, much better reach. I'm part of a project called the Food Data Collaboration, which is looking at enabling those platforms to work together such that you as a producer can use more than one of those platforms quite easily. So I think what I'm saying is that it's much easier now, even than 3 short years ago, to set up a direct sales platform. So I think there's a lot of things coming together here that make it a really timely point to have this webinar. Now, I've been speaking mainly from the context of edibles, but Rick, I wonder if you'd like to comment on what's been happening on the ornamental side of the fence these last few years.
I think it's fairly much in line with what you were saying. We found phenomenal growth with lockdown. Obviously, everybody was restricted at home. They all wanted to either decorate internally or do the garden up. So I was very proud of the fact that I ran what I thought was a very efficient operation, and suddenly realised how underproductive we were. We maintained the same number of staff and managed to increase our output by at least double. We limited our capacity each day to a certain number of orders, so that after order level was reached, the website just came up with, sorry, we've fulfilled today's order capacity, please order again tomorrow. So we were finding people getting up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning ordering, and by 7, 8 a.m. We'd filled everything we could do. So certainly the same as the food side, I imagine. We've managed to keep a large percentage of those people that were new to gardening or new to our business. So in comparison to 2019, we're probably anywhere between 75 and 100% up on what we were doing then. And we're happy with that. We're in a fortunate position where we're trying to balance some sort of lifestyle with some sort of workload. My wife won't mind me saying she's now 65. I am younger than her, but at the same time, you have to draw somewhere a limit on how much energy you can expend and still enjoy yourself. So we're quite lucky that we're at that stage.
Perfect. Thank you. Maybe we'll come back and pick up on some of those issues later on. But right now, I'd like to introduce you to Chris Harry Thomas at Paviland Farm on the Grower. Now, Chris, we've asked Chris to come and talk to us today because he's taking his business through some really substantial and significant changes, including direct sales. And we really just wanted to hear from you, Chris, about that experience. But first of all, just start by telling us about the business now, and where you're taking it, and really what drove you towards moving towards direct sales in particular.
Okay, I mean, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Chris, and we run Paviland Farm down in the Gower. We're an arable farm, or inorganic or arable farm, and have been for many years. We're on that regenerative journey, however you want to define that, where we're cutting and changing back to a mixed farm system. So we brought livestock back onto the farm. We're producing oats and wheat, the wheat for bread making, the oats for our oat milk operation. But the biggest change, I suppose, is going back into vegetables. We used to grow about 450 acres of vegetables in the old days on 2-3 crops a season, and with irrigation, all to the supermarkets and all to the wholesalers. We came out of that, we sold out of that, and I vowed I would never go near another supermarket ever again in my life. It was fine at the beginning. We had 3 or 4 years of wonderful years, and then we just became a total price taker with no control on whatever we produced, and there was no differentiation for value, and then the supermarkets just seemed to turn the whole thing. So we were holding back on the change, and then when Brexit and COVID happened, we advanced it and brought it forward, thinking now was the time to put our foot in the water in the middle of the chaos with local food to local market, and we decided to pull that change forward. So what we did is we put in 2 value crops. I'll just call them pumpkins and squashes at the moment, to use those as a crop for Halloween and for seeds to sponsor our change back into vegetable and fruit growing. So we have now got 8 acres of 1 vegetable field with another 20 joining. We've put up 2 polytunnels, and we've now added back in potatoes, new Gower early potatoes back into the mix, which we haven't grown for 40 years. So we will have those 2 crops, mainly the potatoes, the pumpkins and the squashes, all covering and basically carrying the vegetable business till it's of age. In the vegetable side, we only went into vegetables this year, so we're just coming up to a year. It's exceeded our dreams. The order we thought we would do, we have trebled, if not quadrupled. The main reason for all this change has become this whole thing, as Tony was saying, with Brexit and COVID. Of that, there's no doubt. So it's local food, local mileage, local market. But we have found going to those markets slightly different. We have not gone to wholesalers at all. When I took our product to wholesalers for a chat, I came away deciding we wouldn't supply them. We were going to be back in the price taker. There was no value in it. There was transport. The prices were, well, just one particular product I was offered 40p a unit, and I've sold the whole lot at £2.50 a unit. And I think the price relationship, for obvious reasons, they've got on costs and handling and all the rest of it. So we've decided to go to a local market. We have got a new shopping channel coming on through with doing salads for this year, where we'll do salads by post. These will be mixed salad leaves, and it'll be limited to a pick and mix type operation. We've got a joint venture starting on soup, so that our vegetables that we produce, any excess in the period will go into a fresh soup that'll change as the season and the day and the week changes, depending on what we've got. And they've been endorsed by some Michelin-starred restaurants. We started supplying Michelin-starred restaurants where, to be blunt, we can get the proper price for our products. They are going on taste and quality, as opposed to, they're not so sensitive to price. Admittedly, with all respect, they don't actually serve a very big portion. So some of their vegetables go a long way. So I think it was basically looking at different ways. We're doing some stuff in box scheme. We started a box scheme, and we're just ticking through this hungry gap. And so next year, we're taking big, serious steps to make sure we can offer people on that market a choice, a better choice than we've been able to this year. I think in terms of all these things, we've now started doing bespoke growing for certain stores who want a particular product. So again, it's identifying our products as a different product, I suppose, rather than just being a run-of-the-mill cauliflower. We are trying to avoid growing what other people grow in bulk. So we're doing a lot of Romanesque cauliflowers, and they've been a huge success. Crown Prince on the squashes, which we're still selling now. So this is for nearly 4 months in storage. So I think it's, again, trying to look at a different angle and how to do it. I can rabbit on for hours, but I think basically it's looking for new markets where we must get value. I think I wouldn't say the demand has been huge, but the demand is much more selective, I would say, than before. It wants fresh product, and we know we can put a product into a shop that'll hold for 5 to 6 days with no deterioration, where they're getting products through the wholesalers that could be 5 to 6 days old before they even see it. And that, I think, is giving us quite a distinction, and it is giving us a distinction on price. So there's lots of little things that we've been playing with in that change. I did write something, building partnerships and corporations, so that we've actually started partnering with some of these shops. So they've got a display with Paviland Farm on it now, which is wooden boxes. And we're in one supermarket chain, which we have gone to direct, a small supermarket chain, where we've actually got our produce alongside their produce, the other side of the counter. But our produce is actually, how can I put it politely, is actually twice the price of the stuff on the other side. So the customer does have a choice and it is selling. And I think then the buyer is making that choice themselves. Do they want something that's local, which is more expensive, or do they want something that's come through a wholesaler? I don't say that'll happen in every case, but there is definitely, it's proved that they needed to answer both those issues, which I think we've maybe helped with. So I think going on the bits and pieces, I think the quality is vital. They want to know it's consistent quality. They don't want the bad cauliflower hidden in the bottom of the crate. I think so. Everything has to be consistent. I think you've got to be honest as well. If something's not hitting that thing, you've got to withdraw it. And one thing Tony and I chatted on before, do not underestimate how much extra work dealing with the public is. I know we all love them and we need them, but by God, they can be a pain sometimes. And it's trying to keep the lid in it when you really would like to say, thank you, bye. We had a box delivery scheme and two ladies forgot where the pickup point is. So one went and took a box which had somebody's name on Saturday, and the other one took somebody else's name. So we had complete chaos as to why they couldn't read their own name on the box, which is quite clearly done. So anyway, to cut a long story short, these things do take time to sort out, and it takes an awful lot. So the price has to be there to allow you to put up with a hassle. But we're looking seriously, and we've got some schemes above now to try and change that. One of the other things we are doing, we are going to go to a farm shop. We've avoided it. I've tried my best not to have a farm shop, but I've got no choice. I think it's going to make life easier. And it means that somebody on the farm at the moment who's maybe not fully employed, I would put it that way, gives us some flexibility to utilize part of their time. So going on to these things, we've been looking at different channels where we can get value into our products. I do not want to act selling vegetables at any price just to shift the quantity anymore. So that I think is the critical thing.
That's really interesting. And I think the most striking thing about that, listening to you, is just the sheer diversity of markets that you are looking at. So forgive me if I miss one, but I think we've got box schemes in there, we've got restaurants, we've got value-added processing, we've got farm shops coming, specialist stores in supermarkets. Maybe it'd be just interesting to pick out on some of those, how you promote your market. I mean, let's start with sort of box schemes. How do you build your market, and how do you communicate with your... I
think in terms of the box scheme, it's been all through social media initially. The box scheme has been one of the hardest ones, and one of the ones that takes more time and effort than anything else. I'm in the process of another entity is joining us shortly, and I'd be quite blunt. I've gone after that because they've got 150 boxes a week system at the moment, and they would like to grow, and we'd like to grow. So it seems to be rather mad not to do the join. So for us, that I'm taking a bit of a shortcut, I suppose, to get that market. It also fills a couple of other issues which would help us. So social media. Pinching somebody else's trade, which will become our trade. I think it's thinking out the box. I'll give you a very bizarre thing. We're doing a lot of packing and stuff for horses, equine things, and we go to a lot of stables, we go to a lot of yards, we go to a lot of horse people, and what we couldn't understand is the demand that's all of a sudden come for box schemes. So when we go around checking, our chap goes around, we just bought him a bigger van. So he will now take veg boxes each week when he drops into these areas. And to give you an example, some of these stables will have, on delivery, will have 20, 30, 40, 50 different people there. And I think it's looking outside the box. I think it's there. So to answer your questions, the box scheme, I think, gives you that stable recurring income. It is also a nightmare, but I think it is potentially the most stable thing running through that will give us that consistency. I think then it's the excess is a problem, which is where I think the farmers market, or our own farm market, I should say, or farm shop, and the yeah, and the soups I think will take over.
So just going back to your social media, that seems to be your main marketing engine. What are your main messages there? Are you talking about the story of the farm? Is it the freshness of the produce? Is it the price? Or what's your
We're not talking
what
about
messages are you putting out?
we're not talking about price at all. We're only talking about the farm story and how it fits in, and the cliffs, and you know, the cattle grazing the natural grass with no fertilizers, whatever, the veg grown on the end of the Gower. It's purely the story of Paviland and what's it's about. We have avoided price, and if we have to go to price, I'm really not interested. I think at the end of the day, it has to be that we deliver a good quality product, but it has to be at a marketable price. So we've avoided price, if that answers that question.
And so we talked about the box cube. Where are you selling to? Is it mostly on the Gower, or are you into Cardiff, or where's your geographical sales area?
It's all within Gower / Swansea, but we also have something else. We have an ice cream van, which I think you know about, Tony, I think, which sells ice cream in Rossilli car park. It was the National Trust van, and National Trust stopped, so we took it over last year. That van does nothing for 6 months of the year, 7 months of the year. It is an old Citroen van. To drive it anywhere is a bit of a challenge, unless you take a tow rope and a vehicle with you. But we've changed that slightly. We're re-engineering that now. So we're going to use that for 6, 7 months of the year as a veg van. And it's going to drive to areas out of the blue within, there's no point all hitting the same targets. Everybody seems to be willing to go and attack the Mumbles area in Swansea and places like that, where there is a ready market for people who are already of that inkling. So this van is actually going to go in the opposite direction. It's going to go to the outskirts of Swansea and some of the conurbations that are now part of Swansea, where there is a demand, but they can't get the products. So we're going to try that one. So that's a new plan for this season, that after the ice cream season is over, we're going to go with winter veg all the way through to next spring. You're on mute, Tony.
Oh, that's
no, you're not.
No, that's good. And I think, Chris, I'm just going to ask you one more question, then we'll pop over to Rick for a minute, and then come back to you later. I'm just looking down my chat. I can't see any questions in there so far, but do put them in. I just want to make sure that you get the answers to the questions that you want to ask. But my last questions for the moment, Chris, really, apart from awkward customers, what would you see as the main challenges that you've had to face and overcome over the last couple of years?
There's been a lot of them, in fairness. I think for me, I want to be able to sort of move the farm on and make a sustainable business. I don't think it was sustainable, so that has been a very big challenge. Also to cash flow this huge change, because it's not just the vegetable side of the farm we're changing. That has been, that's been a difficult thing to have made. The biggest problem, I would say, is finding the right people. That has been, some people we've been really successful with, some we haven't. I think some of them will maybe say it's me, but I think it's been quite hard to find the people where we're desperately looking at the moment for support growers. We've got 2 growers full-time now. One's joining us next in the middle of March, but we're desperate trying to find sort of good support people to train. For instance, we've got 4 kickstarts. We can't find one. And the problem is that they've got to travel from Swansea, which is only 17 miles away. There's no accommodation in Gower because it's all into tourism. So I think it's staff and accommodation that makes this quite hard to get the people we need to do this job. So that's definitely one of the biggest issues. I think the other thing is needing those other crops, like I mentioned, pumpkins and now potatoes, to try and cash flow this whole investment into a vegetable thing, which has taken obviously quite a lot of investment and is continuing to take, because all our machinery and equipment is huge stuff. And now we're coming back to something small and neat that's got to fit maybe in a polytunnel. Most of our stuff wouldn't even get, so I think it's the change for us. I think the hardest thing has been people, cash flowing it, and tooling up and learning. And we've had quite a few disasters, and I expect we'll continue to have quite a few disasters, but I think it's trying to minimize those and hopefully learn from them.
Thank you, Chris. we'll come back to you in a minute. I'm going to bring Rick in now. I think, Rick, in many ways, you're very different from Chris. Obviously, one of the main differences is that your products are ornamental, but you've been in the direct sales game for 20-something years. So you've got a long track record of dealing and managing with direct sales enterprises. So yeah, would you like to tell us a little bit about your business and how you started in direct sales?
Yeah, first I should say our business is Claire Austin Hardy Plants. We're perennial growers. We are completely mail order or e-commerce based to the end consumer. So basically we're looking at households and large gardens, but we are not a wholesaler. We over the years have done many different methods of sale. We sold through one of the television shopping channels, which was totally based on price points and volume. We've had a garden centre. We bought our local pub and changed a part of the pub into a retail outlet, gift shop, with the beer garden becoming the outdoor plant sales area and the premises being used as a coffee shop and talks venue. That was all a great idea until COVID came along, just as it was taking off. And although it was only 1.5-2 miles away from the farm we're on, we split ourselves between 2 locations, which meant there were issues there with staffing. If the venue was quiet, we had a staff member there doing nothing, whereas if they were on the nursery, they were kept busy. With COVID, because of the upturn in the mail order or e-commerce side, we now want to stay on the one site. We've expanded our beds and everything up here. The way we market is probably a lot of what we do can be adapted into vegetables, box systems or whatever. I would love to do vegetables because from a packing perspective, I imagine they would be absolute pleasure in comparison to a plant that at one time of the season is 20 centimetres high. Later in the season, it's 60 centimetres high. At one stage, it's 5 centimetres wide. Later in the season, it's 20 centimetres wide. Different boxes, different heights. Couriers that work on volumetric pricing, so it's not what the box weighs, it's how big the box is. Over the years, over the 20 years, we've had to refine our systems so much and be so aware of what our costs are. Like Chris, we don't sell on value. Well, we sell on value in the sense that we have a top product at a good price point, but we never mention price. When you're buying from us, you're buying a good product. You've got the knowledge behind it. You've got the fact that it's been grown outside. It's a hardy plant, and if we can't kill it, you should be able to. So that's our thing. We sell different ways. We produce a colour catalogue, a few times a year with pictures, descriptions, that sort of thing. Our boxes, when we send out things, they're all sort of branded and that type of thing. We have a good web presence, we have a good social media presence, and we also interact with our existing customers. One thing I was going to show today was we have a email database of just over 30,000 names. And if it's okay to share the screen, I'll share the screen and give you an idea of the sort of thing, how we interact with our customers. I'll press the share screen and hope it works. Can you see a Claire Austin page there now? Anybody?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so if you can see that the page there that says Claire Austin here and then a little bit about the plants.
I think I'm not getting anything. Johnny, has Rick still got screen sharing permissions?
I'm just.
Oh, hang on, I haven't pressed share. There we go.
There you go.
That might help. As you can see, you don't have to be a technological whiz to work these things, but a little bit of knowledge helps. So if I can't share a screen, but I can send 30,000 of these, I hope any veg person can too. So basically here is an email. It's got links through that they can click onto. It's great, a great way of marketing because you're directing the customer to the product you want to sell. It gives you a direct in to them. So what I'll do is I'll just run it down so you can see roughly what we're sending. And now what I'll do is I'll go into the MailChimp sending capacity. Except for it's logged me out. While I'm going back into that, I'll just also show you Google Analytics, which again, I am no techno whiz, but this gives you an idea. Right now on our site, there are 24 people looking at the website. You can see somebody's looking at the blog on moving and dividing peonies. Somebody's logging in, that's probably me. We've got somebody that's just put an order there, and you can see the products that are there that they're looking at. So I'll go back to MailChimp. I think because I've been off it for a while, it's logged out. So I'll just get a new code for it and we'll get that sent and we'll see how that influences the visits and hits to website pages. So we'll log in there. And right, so we're doing it out to 34,295 emails, okay? View email. This is so typical. It's not, I'm not usually on a Mac. I've come and sat on Claire's computer. So what we'll do is I will get there, I promise. Right. Come on, I want to send this. Right, here we go. So I'm going to hit the big send button there, and it's asking me now, you're about to send a campaign to this many people, send now, and off she goes. We'll let that tick away, and then we'll just go back and look at the analytics side. So we've got 18 people. I'll go off that, I'll stop screen sharing for the moment, and we can go back into it in a few minutes and we'll see what the uptake is. As I say, I use this a lot. It was something Tyfu Cymru put me onto. Eddie from InSync helped me out. And as I say, the beauty of this is when we're quiet, I can put one together and send it out and generate the business. If we're busy, it just sits in the background dormant, and we can cope with what we've got. Then when it eases off and we need a bit more or we want a bit more, I can just send another one. I don't send them every 3 days like some of the companies. If you're doing veg boxes, I do exactly what I do with the plants. I sign up to every newsletter, every other nursery that's in the same sort of business, find out what they're doing, look at what they're doing. I order from them. I look at how well they're doing it or how badly they're doing it. And I use that as a gauge to how we can improve our business. So if somebody's going to diversify into something they haven't done before, that would be my first thing before you even think about doing it. Order from everybody, subscribe to everybody, look at what everybody else is doing to make sure that you know exactly where you're sitting in the market. So I don't know whether you want me to talk anymore or whether you want to stop and go on to something else and come back to this, or if you've got any questions.
I think we'll park that for now. But I think, Rick, what I'm interested in is how you build up. You've got your 34,000 customer database. My question is, how did you build that up, and how did you get people to sign up to you in the first place?
A lot of things. If you go through, if you do a show, if you do a stand, a farmer's market, whatever, you should always have a book there giving people the opportunity to subscribe. If somebody orders from you, again, from the website, you want to give them the opportunity to subscribe. If you've got a Facebook page, opportunity to subscribe. You want to, every email you send, whether it's personal or whatever, you want to have something at the bottom where they can go onto it. You can offer incentives. Again, we don't do sales. We don't bombard people with 20% off. We don't talk price. We don't offer percentages, discounts or whatever. It is a longevity thing. We've been doing it a long time. But the whole thing is just thinking about, well, we've advertised in magazines, we've had inserts in magazines over the years, things like that, give them a code or whatever to have a free plant with an order over £50 or whatever, and to subscribe and things like that. So it has taken a long time, but there are people with a lot bigger databases than what we've got.
I mean, Chris is very focused on social media for his marketing. Have you got a feel for the relative effectiveness and importance of each of those different sales methodologies that you've just described? So what proportion might come from your shows and trades, what might come from an insert in a magazine, and so forth?
Yeah, what we do is, obviously the analytics side of things can be very helpful, which I'll just actually, if it's all right, I'll just can I share screen again, just to give you an idea that obviously it's starting to go out there now. Things like the Google Analytics, actually, I don't know why I've got that there. Where have we gone? Hang on, sorry. Are you seeing the Google Analytics now? Yeah.
I think that's, I mean, just while you're doing that, I mean, I think that's quite interesting.
Right, so this is where your Google Analytics, somewhere like in sync again. The team there are fantastic. Through Tyfu Cymru, I've accessed them. They will be able to link you in and show you the basics. Like I say, I am not professing to be some super knowledge, high-techy guy. I'm far from it. But you can see now they're obviously hitting out there. 89 people on the website. 36 people are looking at that button that said perennials and in stock. So there's 38 people pressing on that. They're about to start shopping, basically. You can see Saxifraga White Pixie was the first picture on the left-hand side. So if you're looking at a mobile, that's probably the first picture that somebody's likely to come to, is they're going to scroll down or scroll up on their mobile, and they're going to see those pictures in a nice line. So again, by placing particular products where you want them on that MailChimp, you're determining what order they see them in, and therefore you're driving sales towards a particular product. So, okay, we're up to 109 now. I mean, it's phenomenal. The power of the email and the marketing is just fantastic. So all my efforts at the moment are being concentrated on expanding that list, because I can sit there and I can say, if I have that many people on the site and 1% of the purchase, our average spend is 67 quid. Therefore, I will generate this number of sales and this volume or this monetary value. And of course, it's never a guaranteed, but it does ring fairly true. I know roughly what percentage of unsubscribes I'll get. Each time I mail out, you will lose a percentage because people will be fed up. You know, you'll be the sixth email they've had from a marketing place or a business, and they go, "Oh, unsubscribe, I've had enough." But yeah, so that's the MailChimp or the direct contacts. You know that you're dealing with people that are already interested in your product. It's the best way to market. Is you're not trying to convince somebody that they need your product. They've already been in touch with you. They're already interested in what you're offering. It's the same if you're talking veg boxes. Well, you should be getting the meat person that does the meat box to put your veg brochure in every box he sends out, because they're interested in good food. Therefore, you know, the link is, what's the other one? It's going to be wine, isn't it? Who's your local wine wholesaler? Why aren't you putting a brochure in with every Tanner's delivery from Shrewsbury or every Aberfalls brewery? Why aren't you sending a brochure out with them? Even if you say to them, well, look, I tell you what, I'll give you a 10% commission on the first order from anybody that I get using the code on the brochure that I've given you. So it's all what Chris said. It's joined up thinking. It's all perfectly logical. It's having the time to do it. It's important that you track what you're doing so that you know what's working and what's not. If you've got a great system and a great idea, you're not going to know for sure that it is until you're able to track it. So anyway, I'm talking too much. I'll stop for a minute. I'll stop sharing. But you can see there are 152 people on the website. What I'll do is I'll go back now and have a look off screen where we're at currently with the orders, and then I'll let you know. Right, so I'm at 992. I'll have a look at what the total increase in orders over the period of time that we've talked is at the end of the session.
That's really nice. And to me, that's a demonstration of the, as you say, of the power of email and digital marketing. So, where's your market, Rick? Is it UK wide, or are you exporting?
We're UK wide. Again, if you could bear me sharing the screen again, I can actually go into Google Analytics and I can show you where the people looking at the website at this current moment are, well, what their IP addresses are, in the sense of where they're located. It doesn't identify individuals, so please don't think that's the case, but you can see there, that's where people that are on the website currently are looking from. So we've got some random person that was in Stavanger municipality, wherever that is, but you can see it's a predominant spread there around the London southeast, southwest area. So it would be nice to say that they're all Welsh people supporting my Welsh business, but unfortunately the reality is that's not the case. And also, I think with veg, my thoughts are with veg and meat and things is it is nice to buy local and support local and everything else. But I think those big built-up areas like the Cardiffs and Swanseas and those sorts of places, that's where I would be aiming personally, because they're the people that can't go out and dig over a patch and put the veg in necessarily. They don't necessarily have, a huge expanse to plant up, potatoes, corn, pumpkin, whatever they want to grow. Whereas the country people here, I wouldn't try to sell my sheep to my neighbour because he's got a couple of thousand more than me. And so is the next neighbour and the next neighbour and the next neighbour. So I think, again, that's where the added value is perhaps more in areas that aren't, as silly as it sounds, that aren't as local. They still have to be local for you to be that perceived value, but they also have to be somewhere where they're really going to benefit from what you're offering and can't replicate it themselves, or are affluent enough to not want to replicate it and to be able to afford to buy it.
That's good. So I'm going to go back to Chris. So we've got about 15 minutes left. As I say, do put your questions in the chat. I'm going to get back to you, Chris, and ask you really if you were to give just 3 top tips to somebody who would be considering diversifying into the sort of markets that you've gone into. What would those be?
Can I just say one thing before I start? Rick,
please, yes.
That was fascinating. And I totally agree with your summation on vegetables. A little thing, we've got a little tiny fridge van. We took that to a certain outskirts of Swansea, where everybody told me they couldn't afford, they would only buy processed food. It was obviously, we sold that van in under an hour, the whole lot. Every single thing had gone, and we were never asked the price. It was all good stuff. I'm being fairly blatant, but the whole lot sold in an area you would swear blind would never touch it. And I think we were even being asked by people, how do you cook these vegetables? I mean, I think we need to do a bit more than just, so part of the value added for us is that we will add recipe leaflets with that next time, and they'll have to give us their contact details to add into that. And Eddie at InSync is also helping us, and hopefully we can follow Rick. I think the answer is my first thing was to never say no. You can always find the answer yes, you just have to find it in a different way. Be persistent and take the slaps, because it will come right, as long as you don't give up. And I think don't sell too cheap. It is very easy to be a busy fool selling everything And I think this is one of the things, we're looking at lots of different markets at the moment and different avenues to market. And like Rick has whittled them down to the most consistent, we will as well end up doing that. That's for certain. We'll end up growing certain parts, which will make it easier for us, more consistent for us as time develops. I'm absolutely positive of that. But I think my thing is it's not going to happen in a hurry. But again, trying to find the right people to pull into the business and partnership with other people. You know, Rick mentioned about with your local butcher and all the rest of it. We've actually done it with gin, we've done it with beer, and our things are now going out with those delivery packs. And we just return the compliment. Their stuff will go out with ours. So I think it's using and getting hold of other customer bases that share similar values to you, that you can then grow your market. I think the problem is to make sure you don't overpromise and under-deliver, which is so easy in this business.
Thank you, Chris. Good. I know you don't want to talk about price, but we've got a specific question about how you find the right price to offer. So that's from Alison. So Alison, have I understood the question right? That how do you find the right price to charge? Is that the question?
Yes, it is really.
Okay, it's a bit of a cop-out, Alison, but I'll give you a rough rule of thumb. I try to see what the supermarkets are selling and look to sell at the same price.
Oh, right. I look at the Soil Association. They've got a horticultural price list.
Okay, there's lots of different things because we're selling to lots of things, but let me say I'm selling to a shop. I think at the end of the day, Tesco's and all these people, when they buy and they sell, they will knock it out at 80p or a pound of cauliflower, whatever.
Yeah.
I think it's trying to find that price and what you can get away with. I suppose this is the gamble. Sometimes you get it right, sometimes you get it wrong. But we sold, to give you an idea, all the pumpkins we sold this year. We sold no pumpkin, and we did 47,000 of them, less than £1.20. Now, everybody was saying, you know, you can get £5 for a pumpkin and £10 for a pumpkin, but we found it easier to supply the pumpkin patches, which we restocked at 5 o'clock in the morning, and to be able to know that we could sell all the volume of our pumpkins out. And I was quite happy for them to get it. But if I'd gone to the wholesale market and I've gone to the supermarket direct with those, we were talking 20 pence, 30 pence, 50 pence. So it's a bit of a juggle. And I think you need that product mix of your customers who are prepared to pay. The Michelin-starred restaurants, although the portions are small, are prepared to pay a lot of money for that product, but they want the best. And I think I think it's a mixture wherever you get the prices. And of course, the problem is we've only been doing it for less than a year, so experience becomes quite. But I would say we're not known for being cheap, and I think we tend to go from maybe too much. And then see what we get away with. It's maybe not a true fair answer, but that's, I think, at the end of the day is what we're doing.
So Rick, what sort of factors do you take into consideration when you're setting your prices?
Obviously the costings. We come in with a margin of about 20%, gross profit margin of about 20% over the products. Depending, again, it's so variable what we're selling. Our products range from about £4.95 up to about £160, depending on what we're selling, the rarity. How difficult it is to propagate. We will obviously, the 4.95 sort of region, we're looking at something that we've seed grown or bought in that has been grown from seed, going up to things like the intersectional peonies and things which are very high value and very hard to come by. They obviously take a long time for us to grow on and things. So we tend to get a feel for it. We don't do it on price. It's just a race to the bottom. You start playing that game. The whole thing is the whole industry needs to appreciate their worth. It's not a case of I think some nurseries, to be honest, when I look at some of the prices of products comparable to what we're offering, or plants comparable to what we're offering, are really taking people for fools, and we don't want to be perceived like that. I think you have to be careful to be consistent, and to be perceived as reasonable price wise, but also offering something superior. So yeah, we over the years have found a sort of a comfort level. We do offer a discount on quantities of 3. So if for example you buy something at £5 each and you buy 3 of them, it might cost you £14.50. The reason for that is, from a labour perspective, if they're going to one particular bed to pick up 3 plants, one plant, they may as well pick up 3. And from a packing perspective, we use a lot of sort of packaging that holds 3 plants, so it's good for us. Yeah.
Good. So while I've got you, Rick, I'm going to ask you for your top 3 tips for anybody who's considering going into direct sales. And just before Rick answers, as I say, do put your questions in the chat.
I think probably the main thing is, don't think it's going to happen overnight. You've got to be in it for the long haul, and make sure that you have some financial backing, in the sense of you have enough to carry you through. Everybody, as you said, the digital platforms, I don't want to discourage anybody, but I also want people to be realistic. The digital platforms are very readily available now, and what that means is that any fool can do it. What you have to do is you have to convince people why they should buy from you, and you have to be able to reach those people, because you can have the best product in the world, but if they don't know you've got it, they won't buy it from you. So make sure you know what you're selling, who you're selling it to, and make them aware that you have it for sale. Without those things, your business will never succeed. The other thing is, think about what I said at the beginning was lifestyle. Think, do you want to be up and down the country 7 days a week, never seeing your family, sitting there stressing about money? Or do you think, okay, I'm going to start off by sticking close like Chris within a certain radius where I'm in my comfort, and then I'm going to look to expand out? Or am I going to expand out by letting somebody like the courier deal with it rather than myself? So it'd be lifestyle, the marketing, and I think the key to success is having an enthusiasm and a passion for what you do. If nothing else, that's one thing that Claire and I have, is we love what we do. We have a passion for it. And if you have that, you're more likely to succeed, and it is an enjoyable journey. So don't forget that it's also about the enjoyment and the journey as much as it is the success, which will come if you're passionate.
Good. All right. Well, we've got 5 minutes left. So if anybody has got any last questions or points, do raise them. The Tyfu Cymru guys, you've been putting some references in the chat to some additional support and courses. Do you want to say something about that?
Yeah, I just want to say that both Chris and Rick have mentioned they've had support through InSync. The offer is there for any of our growers. If you want any digital marketing training, please do get in touch and let us know. We can set up virtual one-to-one sessions with InSync. I've also popped a link there to a webinar on email marketing that InSync did on our behalf, which is on our Knowledge Hub. There are additional resources there on sort of managing your website and things like that InSync have done for us as well. So yeah, do have a look at that. And quickly, I'd like to just say a big thank you to Chris and Rick. It's great to both share your stories. I think one thing that I picked out that both have talked about is collaboration, finding what works for you, and really the quality of the products you're producing. So I think, yeah, if I pass back to you, Tony, and perhaps Rick, if we quickly have a look at those sales numbers, if you have those there, that would be really interesting to hear.
I think you're still on mute, Rick, if you can hear me. That's Rick, I don't know if you can hear me, but you're still on mute.
Right, sorry about that.
There was
I was just saying, you can see 137 people on the website. We've had 900 and I've cleared it now, £998, I think it was, of orders since that MailChimp went out. I can't show you obviously the orders themselves. I can say that one of them was a bit of a cheat, really, because it was £540 one order. And I can see by looking at the products that person bought that is directly linked to the MailChimp. Because of the products there, I'll confirm it later by going back into the analytics and looking at the MailChimp, but I could say with 99% certainty, because of the products that were bought, that it was as a direct result of that MailChimp. So yeah, just under £1,000. And I would hope with figures like 126 on the website, that will result in more sales this evening, and then we'll have another little flurry in the morning when people that didn't check this evening go back to their work in the morning or whatever. So yeah, all in all, I'd be very happy with the sales. Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you.
So the thing also with MailChimp is you can actually schedule it depending on what level you pay for and how many contacts you have. You can pay for time optimization, where they will actually look at your audience and pick out what they consider the optimum time is for it to be sent. To cheat, I find 5 p.m, believe it or not, is a good time for us. 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. works well for our audience. Just perhaps that will be the same for veg, hopefully.
Yeah, I was always surprised to find actually how critical the timing of when you send these things out, and I'm talking on social media as well as MailChimp, about different people accessing different different platforms at different times depending who you're working for. And I'm guessing, Johnny, that's the sort of thing that people might be able to find out through the offer of one-to-one digital marketing sessions. Is that the sort of information that they would help you with?
Yeah, no, definitely 100%. So like I said, the offer's there for any businesses that want it. Yeah.
Can I just say something, Tony, just to finish off? I'd like to thank the Land Workers Alliance, and a big thank you to Tyfu Cymru. As you know, these guys have been so instrumental in helping us on our journey and continue to do so. And the help has been invaluable. So I would just like to say our thank you back to you guys.
Thank you, Chris. We
thank you, Chris.
Appreciate that. But yeah, and I think I mean, Chris mentioned the Land Workers Alliance, who I work for on supply chains. There's Tyfu Cymru. There is support out there. Do use it. And I hope that you'll find it really useful and helpful. So on that note, I will say thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Chris, and thank you, Rick, in particular. Thank you, Tyfu Cymru guys, for organising the website, and thank you everybody for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.